Done? Finished? Can I change the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Bigger.
No, you have to. Yeah, that's fine.
Ma'am, can you maximize the window?
Okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just do one question here. Okay, let's do this question. Haloalkanes react with KCN to form alkyl cyanides as the main product. This is a very important thing. This kind of question, because here you can see it is KCN and it is AgCN, similar compound. Only difference is that first case it is potassium, in the other case it is silver. Both are metals and both are cyanides. You can see in these two reactants also same. It is bromoalkane, I mean bromomethane. Yeah. Why this is the difference is like that? Here it is forming a cyanide. So whenever you have bonds made through carbon, we call it as cyanide. If it is written as NC, we write isocyanide. So isocyanide is when the bonding is done through nitrogen. N is the nucleophilic center. Nitrogen atom is the nucleophilic center. And if it is through carbon, it will be cyanide. We call it as cyanide. So why this difference happens when it is KCN and AgCN? See, this is an example, both are example for nucleophilic substitution, because we know that CN or like both are CN, that is NC, whatever way it is written, it is nucleophile. Nucleophile is attacking the carbon and the bromine will be moving out as whatever the product, byproduct. So here, same thing is happening here, but here it is nitrogen is making bonds with carbon so that the bromine is eliminated or substituted. So
there is it because it's harder to remove CN from Ag, CN from K, because it's more electropositive. Therefore, making it so that the formation cannot change because it's more strongly bound to the KCN. But in case of silver is not that strongly bound to CN, so it will easily break from the bond, causing it to shift, like turn around and attach the.
Okay, I'll take that point. Anybody else want to share any other point? Harish was, I'll just what you can say, repeat what Harish was saying, explaining. He was saying it's based on the strength of the bond which is made between carbon and CN. I mean potassium and CN in KCN, which is more stronger than the bond made between Ag and CN, because of which like you can see a reverse inversion of the nucleophile is possible for Ag, right, with Ag. Anybody else with any other opinion, comment?
Ma'am, the similar explanation to what Harish said.
Okay, so two are there, like with the same.
Just selected it down first and then down first and then
Yeah, I think it's big enough now, right?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So here basically the the difference
Ma'am.
is, yeah.
Could you show that question again, please?
Yes.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Done? So here the difference is due to the difference in the type of the compound. Here you can see KCN. It's basically ionic. But if you look into the AgCN, you may be surprised, but it is like basically a covalent in nature. The type of the bond formed between the cyanide and silver is covalent nature. So that is a major difference in the type of the difference in the product you are getting. In the case of KCN, as it being ionic, you can see both carbon and hydrogen, we know that they are in a position to donate electron pair. That is why they are ambident nucleophile. Both carbon and nitrogen can make bond, like they can act as a nucleophilic center. But here the formation of carbon-carbon bond will be more favored because that is more stable than carbon-nitrogen bond. Because the ionic characteristic Cn minus is the something, right? As K plus, it's like it is disassociated as K plus and Cn minus. That means the ionic character of cyanide ion is more important because it is ionic in nature. Because of this reason, the formation of CC bond is easier and stable compared to the formation of carbon-nitrogen bond. If it is CCN or it is CNC, if you look into the formation of these bonds, this bond is more stable. Because the ionic character is more important. But when you look into AgCN, what happens? Here it is covalent in nature, so that both are equally can make the bonds with the carbon atom. But here nitrogen, because of its lone pair, will be favoring more to make the bonds with the carbon organic part. So that means it will be forming whatever the carbon then NC. One of the important question they usually ask, like they give in the question complete the equation.
Can you explain the bond again for KCN?
See, KCN, the bond, the compound is an ionic compound. So you know that during a reaction, ionic compound split as K plus and Cn minus, right? So because of its ionic character, both carbon and nitrogen can make bond. Both can act as a nucleophilic center, but the resulting product will be more stable if the bond is between carbon and carbon. Right? That is the reason why they prefer to form cyanide as the product. But when you come to AgCN, in the case of AgCN, what is happening is like it's covalent in nature. So the product it won't be forming a Cn as Cn minus. Instead, the Cn bond, which is breaking down, and that nitrogen, because of its lone pair, will be easily connect with the carbon. So if you have written the previous equation, CH3 Br plus AgCN, then the resulting product is CH3 NC. I'm not writing the byproduct now. The reason AgCN is covalent in nature, so the ability of nitrogen to donate the lone pair is dominating or important, so that it can make bonds with this nitrogen with the lone pair will be able to make bond with this carbon. That means attacking the carbon.
So
Yeah, this is delta positive and this is delta negative. We know nucleophile is attacking the carbon, right? So this is what happens.
so somewhat related to my answer here.
Yeah, it's not about the strength of the bond, it's difference in the type of the bond. One is ionic and other one is covalent in nature. So, yeah.
And because of the electropositivity,
Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So just make a note of it. It's one of the important questions. I have to make sure.
No, you can undo. You have a radio effect. You can undo.
Both not open. I think I have to.
Suddenly, you put the okay. Only close place.
Well, last time it was showing everything, right?
You'll have to delete everything and then import it again. So close this.
I think it will form, yeah. This was the one we discussed, right? Yeah. Correct me.
No.
This was what we discussed, right?
Yeah, the first time case is what we do.
Yeah, let me. So, no problem. Maybe I have to use it as a PDF or something. That will be better, no?
Yeah, and then open PDF from the device itself.
Yeah, let's trial and error method. Whichever method is works well, we'll adopt it. Right. Okay. Now let's discuss about the mechanism. As I said earlier, nucleophilic substitution. It's of two different types. That's why I'm not discussing. Took any example at the beginning because both the mechanisms are different and as giving you different product. So nucleophilic substitution is of two different types, SN1 and SN2. That means this is not as substitution. Unimolecular. That is what SN1. It's superscript as 1. Usually we write in this way only S, then N is small, then we write 1 normally. Okay, it's not like superscript, but it's like N is down. So it meaning is S stands for substitution, N for nucleophilic, and 1 for unimolecular. And SN2 is bimolecular. Same thing, nucleophilic substitution, bimolecular. So you can write the side heading mechanism of nucleophilic substitution. So nucleophilic substitution reactions are classified as SN1 and SN2. No, that is the way of writing it, like SN1 and SN2 mechanism, name of the mechanism. I just wrote the heading nucleophilic substitution like that. Okay. We don't write NS1 and NS2, it is like SN1 and the meaning is like this, substitution. We are talking about substitution reaction. What type of substitution? It's a nucleophilic substitution and the mechanism is unimolecular mechanism. That is why the short form together SN1, substitution. It's a nucleophilic substitution and mechanism is unimolecular. Huh? Yeah, you can use this short form. This is very important because in the exam also they don't write the expanded form. They just write SN1 and SN2 only.
Wait, so writing in both formats is fine.
No, this is not the format actually. This is I just write here nucleophilic substitution full. There is no format like NS.
No, the one you wrote below. S
This is what correct. This is what the correct. SN1 and SN2. N should be small. Nucleophilic substitution. Okay, so let's start with the first mechanism, SN1, then we'll go to SN2. This mechanism is basically, before we go to the SN1, it depends on the structure of the carbon chain in the substrate. That means you have to know whether classify it as primary, secondary or tertiary carbon which is forming during the reaction. And you can see the rule is compounds which can form stable carbocation proceeds via SN1 pathway while the other compounds follow SN2 mechanism. I'll explain what is the meaning. Which one?
The slide, give me the slide and bigger.
Bigger.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I don't want to film like that.
You can And what is substrate?
Yeah, substrate is reactant, another name for the substrate. Last year we discussed in organic. We talked about the reagent substrate. Reagent is also known as substrate. Substrate and the reagent. Substrate is what you see. This is the example CH3 Br, and you're adding KZN as a nucleophile. This is the substrate. Instead of the starting compound, like we used to call the substrate. Okay.
Ma'am, so the one with the nucleophile, that's the reagent? Ma'am, is the one with the nucleophile, the compound with the nucleophile, is that what the reagent is?
Yeah, the reagent is one with the nucleophile. That means what you are adding, this is the main thing. CH3Br is the main compound. That is the substrate on which you are adding a reagent. That is what? The nucleophile.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So before that, before we start explaining the mechanism, there are certain terms related to the optical activity you should be familiar. So we'll discuss that terms and then we'll go to the mechanism. So have you heard of optical activity? Optical activity. What is an optical activity? Optical fibers you might have heard in physics. Yeah, but that is related. But what is an optical activity means? For an organic compound.
How it reflects the light?
Yeah. That means there are certain organic compounds which can deflect the direction of polarized light. So we should be knowing what is a light. What is light? How you will define light?
Not dark.
Not dark, that is light. Okay. Any other definition?
Electromagnetic radiation.
It's an electromagnetic radiation. That means there are electric and the magnetic waves are there, right? So in physics, you might be, when you're representing, there are waves like this, vertical, and there is perpendicular also. Electric and magnetic waves are perpendicular to each other. So you can imagine that there are some, like in the because we cannot draw it in the 3D direction. So you can see there are two types of mutually perpendicular radiation. One is for electric and other one is for magnetic.
So those lines are the Z plane.
Yeah, not Z plane. Like, see, this is electric mean, then magnetic also will be there in a perpendicular, right? I'm just using different colors so that, yeah. It could be anything X or Y, Z, any two plane which is mutually perpendicular. So it's not compulsory that it should be always X or Z or something like that. So this is electromagnetic radiation. But there are certain crystals called topaz or emerald or something. If you pass this light on certain crystals, you pass the radiation light. Okay, so usually light is represented in this way, and the dots at the center be there is horizontal wave also. Okay, this is a simple representation of electromagnetic radiation. Okay, that dots indicate that there is also waves horizontally, usually perpendicular. But there are certain crystal which has the ability to absorb one type of electromagnetic radiation. So if you pass the light through this kind of crystal, what resulting comes is this way. Only with one radiation, either electric or magnetic. Okay, so such light waves which has got either electric radiation or the magnetic radiation is called plane polarized light.
This is what they use in the sunglasses.
No. So normally light is electromagnetic radiation which has got two different types of wave, electric and magnetic, right? And that is what shown, these radiations are mutually perpendicular in plane. So when these kind of radiation pass through certain crystal, not everything, like one good example is topaz, you might have studied in physics. So these kind of crystal has the ability to take one of the crystal, they will absorb one. So the resulting light will have radiation only in one plane. So such kind of radiation with only either magnetic or electric waves are called plane polarized light.
Can we predict which one they'll absorb?
Yeah, that is depending on the crystal.
Okay.
So there are different crystals. So based on the crystal, you can predict whether it will absorb electric or magnetic radiation. So we need plane polarized light. What is the importance of plane polarized light? Am I clear what is plane polarized light?
Can you explain what plane polarized light is again?
Normally light is electromagnetic spectrum, right? It's a part of electromagnetic spectrum. That means it has got electric and magnetic radiation, which are mutually perpendicular. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
When they are mutually perpendicular, that means one is, if it is X plane, other one could be Z or Y plane, whatever it is. But when you pass the light through certain crystal, which has got an ability to absorb one type of radiation within, so that the light which is coming out of such crystal will have only one kind of radiation left, either magnetic or electric. So such kind of radiation light with either magnetic or electric radiation is called plane polarized light. That means the radiation with only vibration or the waves in one plane. That is what the meaning plane polarized. It's only in one plane. The vibration or the waves are only in one plane. Before it was in a mutually perpendicular plane. Now it's only in one plane. That is what it is known as plane polarized light.
Oh, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah?
Is it visible?
The resultant light.
Yeah. Just like normal light only, but the vibration is only in one direction or in one plane. That is what plane polarized light. So in it, to test the optical activity of a compound, we will be using the plane polarized. That means technically nobody is going to ask you what is plane polarized in the exam, but you should be using this term frequently to explain the optical activity of the compound. So you cannot use a normal light because that contains two types of vibration. Here you have only one type of thing, either magnetic or electric. That is what known as plain polarized light.
Both of them are called plain polarized?
Yeah. Plane mean the vibration only in one plane. It could be either electrical or magnetic wave. But if both of them together, that is electromagnetic.
Basically, light is like this.
Hmm.
What's past the crystal, either this will be there
Or this will be there, like that. Either a vertical or the horizontal waves will be there. That's what the difference. Anyway, we'll continue tomorrow.
Don't mind, you're